It's now my pleasure to introduce our next speaker that most of you know pretty well. Manuel Escoto, who will introduce us to the ResearchNet platform and provide a step-by-step guide to researchers and PFD partnerships on how to set up PFDs as co-applicants for CIHR grants. There will be a 20-minute presentation, and then we'll go straight on to the next talk, the presentation by Dr. Marie-Chantal Fortin and Paul Cormier, and we will do a Q&A at the end of both presentations. Manuel holds a Master's of Public Health from the University of Alberta and received training in patient-oriented research through the University of Calgary's Patient Community Engagement Research Program, also known as PACER. He is a patient, family, and donor partnership platform manager within CDTRP and is implicated on many research committees for his patient experience. I think implicated maybe should have been engaged. So Manuel, you have 20 minutes to give us all your words of wisdom.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for attending today and for your interest in learning how to navigate ResearchNet. My name is Manuel Escoto, and I'm the CDTRP's Patient, Family, and Donor Partnerships Manager. For the next 20 minutes or so, I'll provide an overview of CIHR's ResearchNet and discuss the core components required when integrating a PFD partner into a grant application. Here is an overview of today's session. We'll discuss why researchers should integrate PFD partners in the grant application, how to navigate ResearchNet, getting your CIHR PIN, completing the Equity and Diversity questionnaire, starting your Canadian Common CV, and you might also see this referred to as CCV, and the Applicant Profile CV. To that end, there are three goals for today's session. First, supporting PFDs to attain the required components needed to join a CIHR grant application. For our PFDs on the call today, most of the components I go through can be completed at your own discretion, and you don't need to wait until you're invited to join a grant application. Second, to support researchers in understanding the components required for PFD partners. Now, we know grant applications can be quite time sensitive, so this session provides an overview of how to appropriately plan for PFD integration. And third, I'll be providing a step-by-step guide on how to complete all required CIHR components. Now, before we begin with the step-by-step guide, I quickly want to provide an overview of the research cycle as outlined by the CIHR Support Network. And here, I really want to highlight that effective patient engagement occurs throughout the entire research cycle. So my recommendation and reminders to research is this: PFD partners can and should be involved at all stages of the research cycle, starting with priority setting and planning. Now, especially as you develop your research proposal, PFDs can and should help guide the conversation to ensure that the project represents a patient priority. PFDs should be engaged early, on an ongoing basis, and at all stages. Why? Well, PFDs may find it difficult to engage and be involved when invited to join at later stages of the project, especially once decisions have already been made and really once research teams have moved from the research and are now in the knowledge exchange and translation work. When you involve patients at this late stage, it really can lead to a more tokenistic approach to patient engagement. Now, if you've seen me present before, you've seen this slide, but I share it as a constant reminder to both our PFDs and researchers that yes, PFDs can improve the quality of research by bringing their own unique lived experiences, both as patients, professionals, and through other personal experience to the decision-making table. Now, as articulated in the research, And as we've seen throughout our work at CDTRP, there are multiple benefits when PFD partners are meaningfully integrated into research teams and are engaged throughout the research cycle, especially when you start from the priority setting to then transition to the conducting of research, knowledge translation, and governance. This slide here includes some of the benefits that you've seen and that we've seen. So I refer back to the research cycle. If you want to benefit from improved research outcomes, you need to integrate PFD partners at the beginning. But more importantly, you need to find PFD partners whose lived experiences and backgrounds will contribute to your grant application, to your project, and subsequent outputs. Now, in between the development of the research proposal and the scientific review comes the grant application work. And I've inserted a red box here to highlight this space. Now, if your research team hasn't already identified a PFD partner, this is your opportunity. As with other researchers invited to the project, you really need to take a thoughtful and critical approach to selecting your PFD partner. Now, there are 4 roles an applicant can have in a CIHR grant application: the nominated principal applicant, the principal co-applicant, co-applicants, and collaborators. For the research team, the first step is to identify which role or roles your PFD partners will have. I just want to be clear here that this should be a discussion with your prospective PFD partners and not something that it's already predetermined. Typically, we do see PFD partners listed as principal co-applicants, and collaborators. So what is ResearchNet and why should we care about it? Well, ResearchNet is an online application system used by CIHR for managing grant applications and also the peer review process. It's a platform where researchers can submit grant applications and receive funding decisions. And I just want to be clear here that both researchers and PFD partners need to have a ResearchNet account to apply for any CIHR funding opportunities. So registering for your ResearchNet account is important, and it's a relatively quick 2-step process. Now, step 1, go to ResearchNet and select the register from the select register, that's indicated in this box, from the sign in box on the top right-hand side of the page. Step 2, fill in and submit the online form that appears on the screen. Now, the screenshot is probably a bit too small for you to see, so I've included the questions that they'll ask you when you're setting up your account. Once you've submitted the form, your account is created immediately. You'll receive an email confirming your account, as shown in the slide, and you are now set up with your ResearchNet account. The next step is to register for your CIHR PIN. Again, a CIHR PIN is required to apply for all CIHR funding opportunities. To do this and to start your PIN process, you log into your ResearchNet account. You select your name from the top right-hand side of the screen as shown on this image, and you select register for a CIHR PIN from the drop-down menu. You'll then be redirected to an online form, which asks you the questions that I've highlighted here in the red box. Once you submit the online form, you'll receive the following message indicating that your request has been accepted and will be processed. And here, a quick note that CIHR PIN requests are processed Monday to Friday between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time, so it may take up to 24 hours to receive your CIHR PIN via email. But once you receive it, you'll have access and you're now set up with your CIHR PIN. Next, you're required to complete the Equity and Diversity Questionnaire. This is mandatory for all applicants. Now, for staff leading grant management, please note that you cannot submit your grant application unless all grant participants, including your PFD partners, have completed their questionnaire. Now, the good news is you can complete the questionnaire via ResearchNet. You don't need to wait until you're actively involved in a grant. So again, I recommend completing this as soon as you've set up your ResearchNet account. And really, the aim of the questionnaire is to collect self-identifying data with the goal of increasing equitable and inclusive access to funding opportunities as outlined in the Tri-Agency Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Action Plan. Self-identification information is provided on a voluntary basis and can be changed at any time before you submit your application. And because it is voluntary, you do have the option of choosing, I prefer not to answer for any of the questions. And here, a quick note to say that collaborators are the only participants exempt from the questionnaire requirement. Here is a quick link to any FAQs that you may have about the equity and diversity questionnaire. So completing the questionnaire involves a few quick and easy steps. Step 1, you log into ResearchNet. Once on the homepage, click on your name, as you see in the red box, in the menu bar and select ResearchNet account settings from the drop-down menu. Step 3, when your profile page opens, scroll to the self-identification section. Step 4, you'll complete the questions listed in the questionnaire and click submit. I've included the questions that they ask you in the red box here on the slide. And just to reiterate, you can go into ResearchNet at any time and change your answers. So you've completed your equity and diversity questionnaire. The next step is to complete your CV. All applicants invited to a CIHR grant application are required to submit a CV. If you're a knowledge user, non-academic, Indigenous, or if you're an international applicant, you have the option of submitting either a CIHR BioSketch CV or an applicant profile CV. So PFDs fall into this category, so you have the option of completing either or. And another quick note here is that collaborators is not required to submit a CV. Okay, so the first step to complete your CCV is to visit the CCV website and register as a new user. So you'll just click the register button below. To register, you have to follow the following steps. Step 1, provide basic information as outlined in this first box. Step 2, you'll set up your account information. What this is really asking you is for your password and security questions. You'll be asked to provide consent on a couple of different items. And once you complete these steps, you'll now have access to the CCV platform as highlighted in this last box here. And you're ready to create your generic CV. Now, the benefit of creating a generic CV is that it captures all the information that can be required, which then you can tailor and share depending on specific requests for specific grant applications. You can access the generic CV option once you've logged into the CCV portal. So I've included a little red box here. So under the CV header, you can pick generic from the drop-down menu. Once logged, there are 8 sections to be completed. And I've included those 8 sections here on the screen. So this includes personal information, user profile, education, and the others listed. This image here is to show you what the platform looks like. And this red box shown on the slide is to highlight where you can edit your information. So you edit your information by clicking on that pencil looking icon. And once you complete a section, you'll see a green check mark, again, as indicated in this image. Now, the purpose of this slide is to show what you can expect when you edit a section. In this example, I've clicked the edit icon for personal information, and these are the questions you'll be asked to complete. As you'll see, not all sections are mandatory, but there are certain ones that are required, and that is identified by the asterisks. Now, for the purpose of this session, it really isn't possible to go through the entire application, but I do really want to highlight 2 sections. The first, as shown here, is the education section. You'll note that they are asking here for you to indicate your degree type, your name, your specialization, and your thesis title. Now, you are eligible to add more than 1 degree, so if you've attained a degree, please add it. However, this section gives you the opportunity to highlight your lived experience, which is really important to our patient partners. Now, to complete this section, I recommend following the guidance of the support network. So for degree type, the support network notes that your lived experience can be categorized as master's equivalent within the portal. So you've seen there that I've included master's equivalent under degree type. For degree name, you would add your lived experience. So in this example, I've used my personal experience as I am a kidney transplant recipient. I've included that under my degree name. For specialization, specify your expertise in patient engagement and/or patient-oriented research. The thesis title section allows you to talk about your lived experience, and this screenshot shows you some of the prompts I've used to complete this section. So for example, as a 15-year kidney transplant recipient, and then I talk about that. I've been involved in various patient-oriented research projects, including, and I would list them, and committees, including, and then I would list those as well. The education section also asks you to outline the credentials you've received. Here, I recommend highlighting training you've received or learning opportunities you've participated in. As an example, to show you, the screenshot here shows you 6 items I've included in my generic CV as well. So this includes my role in the PACER program, patient-oriented research training I've received, Sanias Indigenous cultural training, knowledge translation work, the TCPS 2 core ethics course, and also my role as a patient partner co-chair on a few different projects. Now, you may encounter the term CIHR biosketch. I've said it earlier in this presentation. And really what the biosketch does, it provides a summary of an applicant's qualifications, expertise, and contributions to the field. Now, the biosketch is used when applying to a specific funding opportunity. And to complete your biosketch, again, there are a few steps involved. Step number 1 is to log into your CCV portal. So when you log in, this image shows you what it's going to look like. Step 2, under CV, you would click funding option from the drop-down menu. Step 3, choose your funding source, and for CV type, you would click CIHR biosketch from the drop-down menu. Step 4 would be to complete the specific questions required from the grant application. And much of this information is the same as your generic CV, though you may wish to tailor some information to match the needs of the specific grant application. Step 5 is you click submit. It'll ask you for consent, and then you click I agree. When you hit submit, you'll receive the following message, and it says your CV has been submitted. The great news here is that you'll now have a CCV ID, which you'll provide to research teams as you're involved in different grant applications. To access your CCV ID, you click on the account header, as indicated in that arrow. And once you're into your account, the number will be shown in the CCV ID field, which you will note by that arrow. So I recognize that this is a lot of steps and a lot of information, but as noted earlier, PFD partners do have the option to do either the biosketch CV or the applicant profile CV. You can access the profile applicant CV as a Word document template from the CIHR website, which you can see here on the screen. So unlike the detailed biosketch CV, the applicant profile CD has 5 sections, and it really was developed to reduce barriers to joining a grant application, and this is especially beneficial to our PFD partners. The image on the right or on the left here is the Word template you'll be asked to complete. Now, when completing this document, it's important to remember that your answers need to be directly relevant to the grant application. So while I recommend our PFD partners to complete this document in advance, please recognize that you'll likely need to make edits and tailor it to highlight how your lived experience and expertise matches the specific grant competition you're applying to. Couple of notes here is that the page limit is 3 pages. However, PFDs would have the flexibility to emphasize their expertise in one area over another. So for example, you might want to spend more time and space in the personal statement rather than sections B, C, or D, or vice versa, and that is completely acceptable. My recommendation here is to work with your research team or connect with me if you need support completing your profile. Your applicant profile CV. Now, during my time with CDTRP, I have supported PFDs in completing their applicant profile CVs. I will admit I found it difficult the first time I completed it because I wasn't really sure what to include or what to emphasize. So on this slide, I share with you some examples of certain types of information I've included in previous CVs I've submitted for grant applications. Now, I won't go through everything. The key message here really is that as PFDs, we bring both our lived and personal life experience to the table. So I recommend you take a holistic approach when completing your profile and include any and all details that you think are relevant to the grant application. And again, to reiterate, I am available to review and support you in completing this document. Brings me to the end. Again, I know that was a lot of information, but this is being recorded. It will be added to our patient portal, patient engagement resources section, so you'll be able to watch it and rewatch it as you complete your CIHR ResearchNet components. Again, to reiterate, I am here. My email is on the screen if you want to reach out. Just want to say thank you for spending 20-ish minutes with me, and I look forward to continuing the conversation and answering any of your questions that you may have. Thank you.